Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
everyone. Welcome to another episode of Can We Discuss with Yara and Petra.
For today's episode, we'll be discussing all of the different dynamics that come with moving abroad. We'll be discussing it from a few different perspectives. So, first, we'll start off about the differences between like studying abroad and living abroad. And then we'll also be touching on our personal perspectives of moving abroad to Dubai versus the US. Yarush, we both studied abroad, but when you moved to
Yeah.
Madrid, you moved for a whole year. I was there for 4 months. So I'm more curious to see how your experience was. How did you feel when you knew you were going to spend a whole year abroad?
So funny because when I decided I wanted to go to Spain, I was really young. كنا وقتها رحنا مع mom وداد ورواد. We went on a family trip to
Yeah.
Spain. We were in Barcelona and Madrid. And on the Madrid trip, I looked at my parents and I told them I'm going to move to Spain. And my parents at that point ضحكوا علي انه ايه okay. After graduating, I worked for a bit and then I decided that I wanted to do my master's. And I applied to a bunch of different programs and I really just wanted Spain. So I got into this program in Madrid. I went to my parents. I'm like, I want to go to Spain. And my dad's all for, okay, سافروا, go out, experience, learn as much as you possibly can. He's all for it.
Mm.
So he loved the program. So he's like, yes, amazing. أكيد روحي. And my mom's like, كي هنبعتها للبنت على Spain.
Yeah. I remember though when you left, أول شيء أنت sometimes you're hard to like get your emotions out. You don't get too emotional over things, unlike me. So I remember when you left, you were like so excited انه ما حسينا انه انت انه عم تبكي او زعلانة or anything. عكس
I
انا
was so
مثلا.
excited.
Yeah, which I understand. But أنا مثلا
Yeah.
I always wanted to study here in the US. And obviously mom was kind of like, no, you have to do Lebanon, like you can decide where you want to go in Beirut. And so one of my kind of not conditions, but like one of my
Out of three
requests,
universities, you can choose one.
yeah, one of my requests was merely like, okay, I want to go do a semester abroad at least, like while I'm in AUB. And um, أنا لما فليت for 4 months, I felt like I was so much more emotional than you were about a whole year in Spain, which is really like the different characters that we have. But I got so emotional about it. وانت حسيت انه لا, you were just full on like really just ready to like embrace the experience. And you
Yeah.
also, the thing with studying abroad, and I think this is really a key point here, is that it's temporary, and you know that it's temporary. Like it's not something that's permanent.
Exactly.
It's a limited time. I mean, I should practice what I preach, not to be emotional about it, but like you do know that it's for a certain period of time and no manushi permanent. So I feel like that kind of like makes it a more enjoyable experience as well, because you're like, oh my God, I only have the certain amount of time. I want to make the most out of it.
Yeah. I think it wasn't that I was emotionless. It was just that I was so excited, but everybody expected me to be scared or worried about going to Spain and living there for a year. And I don't know anyone. And my mom just kept staring at me. Even when we got to Madrid, طلع إنه عتلاني هم إنه I
Are
was
you
really
okay?
not worried about anything.
Yeah.
خلص, I just wanted to go. I wanted to enjoy. I wanted to learn Spanish. That was like my biggest thing. That the
صح.
whole reason of me going to Spain
Yeah.
was for me to really embrace the Spanish culture and learn the language. But I remember when I first moved there, the first couple of days, I think it was, we stayed at one of my mom's childhood best friend's houses, and
Mhm.
they live in Madrid. So obviously that made things so much easier for me and for my
Yeah.
mom.
So another point that I wanted to make about like studying abroad, um, there's a very big difference in dynamics if you're going to a place where you know someone versus going to a completely new country that you have
Mm-hmm.
like no familiarity with at all. You don't know the language. But I feel like for you with Madrid, having those family friends there and like having been there before was what got you so excited. For me, I was so excited, obviously, to do the 4 months there. Did my semester abroad in Montreal, and one thing for me was like, obviously, I moved there. I did my semester there. Let's be real. I chose Montreal just to go live with my best friend, um, and I think that made it like so exciting for me. She came like picked me up from Beirut. It was this whole thing. Like we were so excited. We were living together for the first time. Um, and it's nothing that I would change, but I almost like wonder how different the experience would be if
If
you
you don't
were,
know anyone.
yeah, which one of my friends in college, we did our semester abroad, I think 2 different semesters عملناهم ما عم أتذكر بقى. She went to California and she genuinely like did not know anyone at all, and her experience
Yeah.
was very different than my experience, where for me almost cooler also, like if you don't know anyone, because it's kind of like you're challenging yourself in a completely new environment. You're forcing yourself out of your comfort zone, you're forcing yourself into like meeting completely new people, and just her experience was completely different. I went to a place where my best friend already had all of her friend groups. I knew exactly who was
انت
who I
كمان كنت تعرفي كتير عالم هنيك انه
صح I
كتير عالم
knew
كانوا معنا بالمدرسة they went to
مظبوط
they were
مظبوط
in
outside of
Montreal
just my
right
best
so
friend. Yeah,
yeah
yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like it offers like a completely different experience. And while I went to Montreal, أكيد it was an incredible experience, and all of her friends were new to me. It was still kind of like I already had a comfort zone moving there. So I almost felt like I cheated on like my real study abroad experience, because it was very like set up and cool and casual for me, you know. The house was already there,
Yeah,
it was fully furnished. يعني انت you had a little bit of أكيد okay, having that family friend was there, but I think you had a little bit more of like an authentic experience in terms of you had to find your own apartment, you had to furnish, or it was furnished, but like you had to bring in
it
your
was
own
furnished.
stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So how did you approach finding friends? Obviously being in college makes it a little bit easier, but
It's
how did you navigate that?
so on the first day I met one of my she's still one of my good friends and I love her so much. She's from the States. And the minute I walked in, obviously we're all introducing ourselves and I raised my hand and I said I'm Lebanese American. I studied at the American University of Beirut, blah blah blah. And she comes up to me and she's like, oh my god, I didn't realize anybody else would be from the States. And then obviously there's a lot of, I don't know if everybody knows this, but the South American community is filled with Lebanese people.
So,
So I had a lot of my friends that were from Colombia, from Venezuela, from Brazil that would come up to me and say, oh, we have this in Lebanon, or this kind of relationship to Lebanon.
yeah.
And I think that's, I wasn't, I've never been a shy girl. I've been reserved, but not shy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the easy part. The hard part was making sure I learned Spanish.
Yeah, the language barrier that comes with moving abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, again, I took the easy route. Like I was in Montreal. I didn't even try to speak French because they spoke English, you know, like it
Yeah.
wasn't even a thing for me. The language
No, that's
barrier
true.
plays a big
Honestly,
role.
it does play a big, but I think from a psychological perspective, the friends that you make when you're abroad, or because you're all alone, you know, every person is on their own, you kind of become closer. And you become closer and you become really good friends at a faster rate. So it's like, okay, I'm with this person, yes, in class, but I'm also with them after class and at night and on the weekends. You're together 24/7. So it really brings you closer and you form this relationship that, and you have so many different memories that are just, I mean, this is going to sound so cliche, but it's very true. They do last you a lifetime.
Yeah.
And some of these friends, you're still very close to them, and others, you still, regardless of wherever they live, you can still touch base. When I go to Madrid, I know that these people live there, for example.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
call them up and I'm like, hey, I'm here. I want to see you, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the really nice thing about moving abroad as a student, because there's also zero responsibility on
Yeah.
you as a human being.
For sure. That's the best part about moving abroad as a student. No, yeah. And then I think with that, like studying abroad, again, like for me, at least in my personal experience, because it was temporary, yes, I got emotional. I was leaving behind my friends, blah, blah, blah. But it was still like a very like enjoyable experience. Like you said, there's not that many responsibilities that go into it. But it was a completely different experience for me 3.5 years ago when me and Jason made the move to like permanently live abroad, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was similar with you as well when you made the decision to move to Dubai. And we've talked a little bit about this, obviously, the difference between like being here in the US and being somewhere in the GCC or a place like Dubai.
Hmm.
You are like the GCC offers a lot more familiarity for us, obviously because
Because
we
we
grew,
grew up in
yeah.
Saudi.
But even for people that have no experience in the GCC and they move to GCC from a country like Lebanon or Jordan or whatever, like the Arab region, it still offers a lot of familiarity. You know, like your favorite restaurants that you were eating in Lebanon are in Dubai, you know. I know when I
Hmm.
moved to the States, يعني عن جد بقول الحمد لله انه جيسون كان معي لانه the systems here
Are
are
completely
so,
different.
they're
They're so
completely different.
different.
They're so freaking complicated. Like
I
okay,
know,
this is
right?
like maybe silly. I know I moved here. I was 27, 27. I hadn't even ever owned my own like credit card, like as simple and stupid as that, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I had to go through figuring out like how to open up a bank account here in the US. Like it's
But
so
again,
complicated.
in the US, it's so complicated. Like, I
Yeah.
went to Madrid, I was able to do everything on my own, right?
صح.
At the beginning, right at the
صح.
get go. The systems are
Here,
different. So,
yeah.
Dubai makes it easier for everyone, not just
Yes, it's more
people
expat
that are
friendly.
Arab.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For me, like بأمريكا عن جد لما نقلنا, it was crazy because I felt like we were stuck in a loop. Like we hadn't decided where we want to live. We hadn't signed a lease. I didn't have a job. Jason didn't have a job. And yet you need all of these things to be aligned for you to be able to like move forward here, right? So I remember like when we opened up our bank accounts, they needed like pay stubs, they needed like a permanent address, they needed your credit score, like just all of these things. And I'm like,
A lot of
guys,
stuff.
imagine
Yeah.
I was just born. I don't have anything. Like, how would I go about this process right now? You know what I mean?
Even though they have all of the information about
أكيد.
you, like,
أكيد.
it's crazy. بس
يارا
انه ما بعرف بيحبوا يلبكوا الحياة هنيك.
ايه كتير يارا لما فتت على one of the banks to open up, obviously because of my social security I get it
I
now, but like
know,
I didn't get
right?
it before because
How creepy is it that they have everything?
they were like,
And
oh,
they
do you still
know.
live on 11 Roberta Road, whatever the hell? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. It was a very complicated, obviously Jason had also had experience with the systems here because he came here for college, and so he had like experience in that. He understood like how we have to do, like he was the one who applied for my taxes, like backfiled my taxes for me. He helped me so much through the process, and no بحس أكيد I wouldn't have been able to do it, or it would have cost me a lot of money to do it if I was coming here alone because I would have to hire people to do it for me, you know.
You would hire people.
Yeah, obviously
I
I'm
was gonna
hiring
say, I
someone.
mean, the big thing about the differences, one of the biggest differences between living in the States and living in the GCC as a whole, here it's just so easy because it's really just about, oh, okay, I'll just call someone. I need a medicine from the pharmacy. I don't even have to put my clothes on to go down. It's just me, ordering it off of an app. And it really, Dubai just makes things so much easier for you.
Yeah,
It's
that
such an
sounds
easier lifestyle.
it sounds great over there, honestly. يعني هونيك كمان there's like stuff that is like, oh, أنا قطعت من البنزين بنص الطريق, تعال, like get an app. Like, yeah, in Dubai it's like a whole other level. I
It's a whole
definitely
other
can see
level.
that.
Dubai is
Um,
just, it makes life so much easier. That's why it becomes
yeah, yeah, yeah.
extremely comfortable living here. And a
صح.
lot of expats come here and they say, we're just kickstarting our careers. We're going to be there for a couple of years. بعدين رح نرجع, رح نرجع من wherever they came from, be it
Yeah.
Lebanon. Lebanese expats obviously do this a lot. Americans say, yeah, we're going to go there for a couple of years because it's tax free and we're going to go back to the States. Nobody can go back to where they're from when you live in Dubai.
Now
You're really spoiled.
there's so many like influencers that I follow that have lived their whole lives in America that now have like moved to Dubai, or not just Dubai, like a lot of other countries as well. And now they're like, uh, they were lying to us about what the American dream is. The American dream is outside of America, you know? Uh, but I think like if I go back to like when we made the decision to actually move here, it was, as you know, so emotional for me. Like I don't think like it hit me, but I don't think it really like hit me until I was here, until like now all of the sudden I'm only going back to Lebanon for a certain amount of days. Like I can literally count the number of days that I get to spend with my mom, with my dad, with my sister, with my brother, with my grandparents, like with my in-laws, like literally ايامنا معدودين وهيدا الشيء كتير خوف. أكيد الحمد لله, like I understand how blessed I am to be able to go back more than once, but like and spend 2 months at a time there. But I'm sure for you it's different because like for you in Dubai, you can literally, if you miss mom, if you just feel like you need a hug from mom, you literally jump on the next plane and you're there in 4 hours, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's different, right? I mean, living in Dubai makes it easier to. Also, Dubai is a very central hub, right? So
Yeah.
to me, I can get on a direct flight anywhere. So I
صح.
think, and also that's the difference about living here. The mentality about traveling is completely different. It's so easy.
صح.
اوكي بعد ما حجزنا بدنا نسافر بكره خلينا نحجز لانه في 100 طياره بتروح من دبي على I don't know anywhere in Europe for example,
Wherever. Yeah.
right? Wherever you want. Yeah, really wherever you want. So that is also that in Dubai makes it really easy. So
Yeah.
living in Dubai, and also the time zone. I live in a time zone that's very close
Oh yeah.
to where the majority of my family and my friends live. Yes, my sisters in the States, my best friends in the States as well. And it's really annoying finding a time just for us to kind of
Yeah.
talk at length.
Yes.
But it's just easier here because of the proximity and the time zones. And
مظبوط.
I wake up in the morning, I want to pick up the phone, call my mom. I can absolutely do that. It's easy.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
she's having her coffee at home at the same time as I am.
Yeah.
And it's even though you don't think about these things when you move abroad, they do make a huge difference.
Yes. 100%. They make a really big difference. ومثل ما عم تقولي, like when we first made the decision to move abroad, like time difference was not something that I ever considered, but it plays a big, big, big role. Like for me, again, I'm blessed that we have family here. We have friends who live on this side of the world. Some of my best friends do, you know? So in that sense, it made it easier. But like me and your best friend, Marra, like we got on the phone. She's like, "Oh my god, I forget that me and you are in the same time zone, you know, and we can actually, there's actually another human for me to speak to after 5 p.m. when everyone's passed out in the Middle East, you know?" Um, but but that's like definitely one of the biggest challenges for moving abroad. And then I think when you move abroad, Kamina, versus studying abroad, you carry a lot of those responsibilities that we said, you know, as students, you don't have. And then outside of just the responsibilities, when it comes to creating friendships and building bonds. أول شيء, you're much older, so like you are much more set in your own ways. You are already have friends that you feel like friendships that are already established, that you're like, but these are the people that I was ready to live the rest of my life with, you know, like I had it all planned. And then now all of the sudden it's taken, not taken away, but it's changed, like the dynamics change there. And I think when you're studying abroad, because you're in school, because there's like an more routine and everyone is going through the same things, it becomes much easier to bond with people. For us, when we moved here to the States, it was harder for us to really find our group of people that we feel like you're going through the same experiences, understand the difficulty of like not living with your parents and not being able to see your parents. And I think it wasn't really until like end of last year, which is like 2.5 years into us being here, by the way. Akid, we have friends who are family here, so that goes without say. But I'm saying like core group of friends, like new friends, right? Because it's nice to meet new people. It took us a while for us to find that group of people that really understands us, that hasn't lived in America their entire life, that doesn't have their family around them, that isn't spending every single holiday on احنا معزومين, like, oh, we have our family Thanksgiving. Again, we're blessed that we do have that, but like it's not the same. يعني, it took us a minute to be able to find those friendships and to build those bonds with people. And we really found it when we found people that came from similar backgrounds, which is, again, much harder to do. I also don't have like a 9 to 5 where I'm like in an office every day. Neither does Jason. So كمان هيدا الشيء أصعب وأصعب. I'm around people who don't speak Arabic. Like for you, I'm sure in Dubai, عدا عن the fact إنه there's people like our high school best friends still live with you, it's also the language barrier makes it much easier for you. يعني اوقات عبالك بس هيك تحكي تفش خلقك بالعربي وفيك انت بدبي. انا بحس انه لا, like I can't do that, because even
You
people
can only do that. You feel like you can only do that when you're with your husband or with one of our cousins or a couple of our cousins that are there, right? Or people that you can talk to that
yeah,
live in different states, or your best friend, for example. I think language is a big thing living abroad, but I think when you're looking at the differences between studying abroad and then fully living abroad, I think the biggest thing for me is really being okay with the responsibility it holds of you living abroad, and then understanding that you and no one else, you're the only one that's going to have to find the balance between your new home, who you are in your new home, what your life looks like, and what it did look like before, and who you are back home. And
yeah,
it's finding the in between so you don't lose yourself as an individual, you don't lose your values, your beliefs, who you are as a human being, the people that you're closest to, but also embracing the changes that are happening all around you and learning, because I think we're always going to be learning about the new things that are around us. And then you go back home, or you go back to where you were based. Home to us can mean so many different things, but you go back to where you're based and where you feel like this is my home, and you're like, اوكي انا كنت فكر هيك بس هلا تغير تفكيري، هلا تغيرت نظرتي لهاي الشغله، هلا صار ما بعرف صرت افكر فيها بطريقه غير. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
100%,
It's looking at things
100%.
differently.
It
Yeah.
molds you differently once you move abroad. خلص صار مثل ما عم تقولي, like your experiences are just completely different than the experiences that mom is having back home or my best friend is having back home. And so now
Yeah.
your mentality changes a lot, and it adapts and it evolves with you. Not that there's one that's better than the other. لا, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying
no.
it's different,
It's
and
different. And it's embracing the differences.
100%, because مثل ما قلتي, like at the end of the day, you're the only one that's responsible for your destiny, for your happiness. So you have to, يعني, it, for me, it was a struggle to really just be like, you know what, this is your new reality. You have to accept it. يا بدك تكوني بأمريكا وتكوني زعلانة و you're depressed إنك منك بلبنان, or you want to actually like put in the effort to make this place your home because you have everything you need. You're blessed with having your husband or your partner here. You're blessed with having family
Yeah.
and friends here. So take advantage of it and like live in the now and make sure that you're fully embracing this experience. لأنه as much as living abroad is a little bit more permanent than a lot more permanent than studying abroad, I also am a very strong believer that nothing in your life is really permanent. Like if there's something that you want to change that you're not
Yeah.
happy with, you can definitely go about changing it, you know? So I think it's مثل ما عم تقولي, it's just important that whenever you are taking on like a new experience, be it studying abroad or living abroad, to really embrace the experiences that you're getting, live in the now, make sure you are making the most out of every single day and bringing the most happiness and joy that you can in your life. And that's true about moving in the region, in the GCC, and it's true about moving here in the US. You know, we
Yeah.
have different experiences, obviously, being in the GCC and being in the US. But when it comes to making the most out of our experience, that's something that I think me and you can both relate to in terms of, it's the effort that you want to put in and it's how much you want to make that happen for yourself.
It's how much you want to get the best out of it, right?
Yeah.
It's about changing or shifting your mindset. Yes, of course, you might get so frustrated about the things in your new home or where you currently live, but it's about embracing the best things about it
Yeah.
and knowing and realizing that if you do want to make that change, you can make that change.
صح مزبوط.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that brings us to the end of our discussion for today.
Yes.
As always, share with us some of your experiences. Were you studying abroad? Did you end up moving abroad permanently? What were some of the differences that you've experienced between the two? How did you make the best out of either situation and make it work for you? And yeah, make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe.
All of the above. And tell us what your experience has been.
Yes. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Can We Discuss with Yara and Petra. We're so excited to have you back again right here next week.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
everyone.